90% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason to remember the name.
Red Pole Q, and here we are with another edition of Asia Hang Sweet. And with me, I have
McConnell,
who may go by a different name in the future.
It's very, very possible. We need to think up something good.
Youngblood. Fresh meat.
Yeah.
We got all sorts of it. We got all kinds of names for these low down, dirty motherfuckers.
Very, very true.
All right, so we have a bunch. We have a wild animal running around the house.
We had two wild animals running around the house.
We did
last night.
Oh, good lord! Why don't you talk about what happened last night?
Well, last night I was sort of scheduled with a woman, and
no, we don't got no girls in here, baby.
So she was very pressed for time, I guess, because she had some sort of meeting. But she made some time to see me. So I told her to come over because we had some dessert to give her. Actual dessert. I'm not trying to make a joke. And I met her outside, out front of the apartment, and she said, "Oh, I need to get my dog because he hasn't been alone all day and hasn't seen me." And I said, "Oh, well, it'll be really fast, so why don't you just come up?" And she was like, "Oh, my dog." So I ended up having
my
to go.
dog's been alone all day.
Yeah. So I ended up having
and
to.
And it's like, well, what about McConnell? He's been alone all day too.
I was alone all week. So she got the dog and she brought the dog here, and then on the way upstairs, she was like, "Oh, your apartment's so big. My dog's gonna have so much fun." And I was like, okay. So then she came up here and she just let the dog run wild. And Red Pole Q was shocked.
Well, I'll just say I hope that's the first and last time anyone shits in our living room.
What if Mr. Wright and HB Nurse want to try something new?
Not in the living room. All right. He has a room that he can use, and I think that will serve everyone's purposes totally fine.
Okay, so that happened, and so that's why we're talking about all the animals, wild animals
in the house. Yeah. So I'm glad that's over. Oh man. It was really funny. She's like, "Your apartment is so clean." I was like, "Well, it was until your dog started dragging its dirty ass all over. It was clean before, but anyway." All right. Well, but that's the things you do with chicks. Dogs. Highly recommend avoiding girls with dogs.
Yeah.
Highly recommended for multiple reasons. One, it's just another thing in her life that takes away from her time she could be spending on you, or on making herself look better, or making herself smarter, or basically doing anything that could benefit her life, herself, or you. So, already, dogs, bad. Now, let's say you're gay, and you want to have a girlfriend. Okay, then get a girl with a dog. Perfect. She can be busy with the dog, and when she's with the dog, you can run out and have some fun with the guys. So, that could work. But if you want to be with the girl and you want her time and attention, dogs are bad news. They require maintenance. They require, there have definitely been. Vision was talking about how his roommate had a dog, and when he would have girls over, he'd be trying to bang the girls, and he would close his door, and the dog would be outside in the living room, like by the door, like. And the girls would feel bad for the dog, and it's like, so they can really get in the way. And I have another friend who spent who was trying to have sex with this girl, and every time he like put on the condom, the dog would start chasing his dick around. I mean, it's just there's no good story.
We heard a story on boot camp, a terrifying dog story.
Which dog story was this?
A guy lost his dick.
Oh man. Oh. Yeah, you don't want to have peanut butter around dogs, apparently. Despite what you may have read on the internet. It can end in tragedy. Unless, you're planning on transitioning into being a ladyboy, in which case, maybe you might save yourself on some of the fees if you go in already cut. I don't know, maybe they need that tissue for something. I don't know. Anyway, dogs. I don't recommend them. Ugh. All right, let's move along. I want to, give a shout out to Atina Mukama. You may remember that I think the last podcast I mentioned that we'd gotten a question here. For me, I want a very good wife to marry from Korea or Japan. Someone who is very serious, reach me on. Atina Mukama at gmail.com. ETINAMUKAMA at gmail.com. And we've got a phone number here as well. +256 772 998 193. So if there's any serious Korean or Japanese woman who wants to get married, you can reach out to Atina Mukama. I don't think this is gonna work, but I'm willing to do my part.
Yeah, we're gonna keep giving a shout out to Mr. Mukama until he finds what he's looking for.
Yeah, so Mr. Mukama, if you're listening and you've found yourself a wife from Japan or Korea, or maybe Anyway, if you found a wife from Japan or Korea, send us an email and let us know so that we don't need to continuously announce about you. But, we want to do our part to help you out. Okay, now that we've taken care of the most important business, let's talk about these two videos that we just watched. We'll have the links in the description, which you can find in the description. Or if you go to the show notes page, redpoleq.com / what is it actually? Do you know what it would be?
I don't know.
Let's see.
Oh.
Let's see.
We're just
We're
looking
it up, Imagine that, a bunch of guys teaching about dating not being organized. Yes, here we go. It's redpoleq.com / podcast-18. Yep. That was a lot simpler than I thought it was going to be.
Yep.
All right. So there you go. So you can go there, redpoleq.com / podcast-18, and you'll be able to find the videos there. So let's maybe explain what the video project is. So first of all, it's on a YouTube channel called Solfa, SOLFA. And this is by a Korean film major, a guy who started with doing some Korean girls react videos. And, we've had some discussion of these in other places. Korean girls react to like Nicki Minaj's Anaconda. And they also, my two oldie favorite ones were that one, and also one he did on Korean girls react to Magic Mike. So those are very interesting because they talk a little bit about Koreans' perspective on sex and sexuality. But anyway, he's got quite a few good videos on there, and I thought that the latest project was very, very interesting. So the setup essentially was that they had a woman who they interviewed about her preferences in men, and then they had about 40 guys show up, and she sat in the middle of these guys, and she's sitting on a stool and they're all sitting on the floor cross-legged, and she says to them, and she goes through the list of her criteria. And, you know, it starts off with things like, it started off with, I can't remember what the first question is, but it had questions like, you know, I don't want any guy who's making less than, you know, about $1,500 US. I don't want anybody who doesn't have experience with women, so anyone who's never been in a relationship. I think she eliminated guys who weren't, as she put, a beast in bed. She eliminated
smokers.
Oh, smokers.
Well, but not all smokers. Only guys.
Guys who smoke more than
half a pack of cigarettes every day.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, so she eliminated various guys, and she was curious to see and the idea, she thought that and they asked her in the beginning, how many guys do you think will be left? So we won't spoil it for you by telling you, but it was very interesting to see, especially because he also did a version with a guy, and the guy putting his criteria down, and the same thing, 40 girls about, and he gradually eliminated them with questions like, I don't want any girls who wear colored lenses, girls who've had more plastic surgery in more than 2 places. What else was there?
He wanted girls who were active in bed, like more aggressive.
That's right. Any girls had to be his age or older.
Right.
Which I
or
thought
a little bit older.
Right, or a little bit older. Which was an appalling, absolutely appalling. Now,
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess I'm the only one who can say that now.
Yeah.
Don't worry. When you get older, they'll still be... Wait a minute. Okay. Anyway. So, he eliminated girls who... what was another criteria? There was another one that was interesting. Oh, he eliminated women who didn't want to have kids. That was one. He also had some height and weight requirements, which, seemed pretty reasonable to me.
Yeah.
Based on my personal experience, but
yeah.
Anyway, so it was very interesting because the thing that anyway, what did you think was interesting about these videos?
Well, I thought the concept was very interesting. One of the things that I actually would have liked to have seen is I would have liked to see, if it was possible to play them back and restructure the order of the questions. Mm-hmm. Because it would have been interesting, there were some questions that were asked later on, and only a couple people left. But I suspect that maybe if those questions had been asked in the beginning, it would have been like a bigger, So it would have been interesting to see what percentage left, or what percentage would have left from the full group,
right,
for each question. So that was one thing that would have been cool. But in terms of there's just other interesting things. I thought the male one where the guy was eliminating girls was pretty clear that this is a very specific type of guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have been curious to see a different type of guy
right
running the same sort of thing.
Right, because the criteria about circle lens, about colored lenses is really interesting. It actually made me wonder if this is common, that there are guys out there who don't like that.
Yeah, well clearly there are.
Because I was really shocked.
Yeah,
that he would, and that was like the first question, I think.
It was one of the first ones.
Yeah, so because I'm a big fan of colored lenses on girls.
Yeah, me too, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been interested. Probably this guy was. It's probably unlikely that this guy goes out a lot based on what he was saying.
Yeah, he said he doesn't know about girls' weights and heights because he normally just goes out with guys. And I know you know a lot about girls' weights and heights, and I know a bit. I'm not as strict with my criteria. I'm more strict on my age criteria. You're more strict on your weight criteria. Yeah. Everybody has their area of expertise, right?
So I would have been interested to see a guy who has either had like a lot of dating experience, because this guy even acknowledged that he didn't, or it seemed, indirectly he was sort of acknowledging that he didn't have a lot of experience, and especially his question about preferring active girls, sexually active girls in bed, like the girls who are more aggressive, that sort of suggests that he doesn't necessarily have a lot of sexual experience because he doesn't want to be the one to lead the sexual interaction.
Right.
So it would have been interesting to see someone who had more dating experience and who who had like different criteria or different experiences dating like wider range of girls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because, for example, if it was me and I was going to ask that kind of question, I would say something like, anyone who doesn't like making her man happy in bed or doesn't care about, doing things that make your partner happy in bed, you can leave, which is I definitely want those girls to leave.
Yeah.
So I think, that's another thing, right? Because probably he was like he was definitely like shy about asking some of these questions. And so he was like, oh, how do I ask this? And he said active versus passive, which is unclear what that means, And I think even the girls were like, I don't know, or they were like, I'm
they said,
not sure.
it depends on the time.
Right. Whereas if he'd said something like, if you just lay there and do nothing,
right,
then you can leave.
Right.
So that would have been interesting. And what's also interesting about this sort of thing is that if you say that and the girl stays, then she's said she's not going to just lay there and do nothing.
Right.
Anything? What other things about his criteria about the fact that he was kind of, not very experienced?
I don't know. I think I said most of what was interesting about that. Do you have anything you want to say about the guy? Because there's a couple interesting things I thought about the girl one.
There are a couple other things. So the fact that he, it's and this is often the case, right? You have this guy who like has almost no experience, and then he has all these qualities, all these standards,
or these standards that he thinks he has.
Yeah,
maybe he doesn't actually have them.
Right. Yeah, and that's a good point, right? Because it's like, if he actually had a shot at any of those girls, I seriously doubt he would screen them that hard. Yeah. And this is something, I often tell, women, I say guys are pretty easy.
Yeah.
But they think they're not because they know that guys theoretically have theoretical criteria. But in practice, the criteria isn't so strict for most guys, especially this kind of guy who, is probably going for, 6 months to a year without getting laid at all. And, and this is an interesting phenomena. I often think that the reason that guys who don't get much have such strict criteria is because it defines who they are a lot more. Whereas if you have a lot of experience, it's sort of like, this is an old, not a joke, but, my good friend Bon Jovi used to say, not the famous Bon Jovi, obviously, but his nickname. Or Kevin Cashmere, yeah. He's also goes by Kevin. Anyway, Kevin Cashmere. He was saying that, he wanted to get into doing porn because you can, not making porn, but producing porn because you can make a lot of money. But he was sort of concerned about his, his image in terms of being less porn producer. But then he was thinking about that guy, the guy who used to run Live Door. What's that guy's name? Horayamon. Yeah. And this guy, and that guy made a lot of money off porn. But because it was just one piece of his business, it didn't really color people's perspective on him, right? And so I kind of feel like when you're a guy who, has a lot of variety of women you sleep with in your life, then that's how women are. It's like, oh yeah, if you bang like some girl that's not that great, it's not that big of a deal because it's just one piece of your entire sex life. And it's maybe a small piece, but when you date very few women, it's like each girl matters a lot, so your criteria is quite strict.
Yeah.
And that's something I learned, when I was first getting, before I was good with girls and I was just around guys who were much better. I realized they didn't really care. They would just bang almost anything. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Okay, almost anything in Japan. Okay, so let's be clear, right? That's probably because then it's at least young and thin and dressed well and wearing makeup and hair is done. So they probably are pretty far from banging anything actually, but banging anything in Japan.
Yeah.
So that was the first. That was one of the things. The other thing that I thought was interesting was that that the girls' reactions. Well, there's a lot. Okay, well, there's a lot of things I want to talk about in contrast to the girls. So maybe we'll get to that later. So let me think. What else was it about his criteria? Maybe that's it. Yeah. I guess girls thought he was pretty good looking.
Yeah, it seemed, or at least there were the comments. Some of the comments they showed were pretty positive, I guess.
Yeah, I don't imagine that I would get that kind of response if I was surrounded by 40 women.
Yeah.
Although you might.
Oh, depends, I guess.
Well, certainly I've had at least 2 girls come over and be very, very so impressed with your looks that they felt the need to tell you in front of me how attractive they found you. So that's a pretty good start. I mean, with blonde hair like that, what do you expect?
Yeah.
Just a note, he doesn't actually have blonde hair.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay. So you wanted to say something about the girls' side.
Yeah, it was one of the things that was interesting. One of the most interesting questions that she asked is she said, okay, guys who don't like to take selfies leave.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's pretty rare for almost any guys to like to take selfies, myself included. It's one of the behaviors I dislike most when I'm with a girl because it takes up time. And oftentimes, depending on the girl, it can take up a lot of time, actually. And, that takes away from what I actually want to be doing. Because really, for someone who spends a lot of time in front of a computer and a phone, if I'm with girls, I don't want to be spending my time in front of my computer or phone. So I'd rather we're doing something else. And I guess I mean, if we're gonna be taking pictures, I think I should be taking the pictures. But one of the things, there's a couple things that bother me about that actually, and one of them is that it seems like it's not really for the benefit of the relationship, and it's more for her own social status benefit a lot of times, or it's for her own personal.
Is this a sore spot for you?
No, it's not really a sore spot. It's just behavior that I don't really like.
I'm just joking about your girl who really likes to post a lot of pictures on Instagram.
Yeah. It doesn't really bother me that she posts the pictures though. It's more that it's taking up time that is not what I want to do.
Right. Sure.
So, I don't know. Do you know any of the guys who really enjoy that?
So I think that there are guys who do really enjoy that, but I think the reason they enjoy it is because they're like, oh, I have a girlfriend. This is so amazing. Wow. Like that.
Right.
I think those guys probably do like taking selfies. So basically, guys. Oh, there was something else I wanted to say about that. The guy that they used in this, for the guy version, I bet he would like taking selfies with the girl.
Yeah, probably.
Because he would be really happy that this girl wants to be seen with him everywhere.
Right.
And that's the thing. And so one of the things that I found really interesting was that guy is actually really the kind of guy that girls would want to be with.
Yeah.
Because he's not going to be very demanding, actually. He's going to be really nice and sweet to them. But... and he was fairly good looking.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because I don't think girls would actually pick to date him.
Yeah.
I mean, well, that's pretty clear. I mean, he said he normally just hangs out with his guy friends.
Right.
And he's looking for an older woman because generally speaking, younger women are much more difficult to manage and deal with. So it's not surprising he wanted a girl his own age or older. A lot of young guys actually want that because they want a girl who's not going to give them problems.
Yeah.
Basically. And oftentimes, younger girls, well, not oftentimes, almost always younger girls are more problematic.
Yeah.
So going back to the girl, and the selfie criteria, I think it's very rare for any guy that she would actually want to date to be into taking selfies.
Yeah.
Right? I think there are guys she wouldn't want to date who'd really love to take selfies with her. Because the girl was quite hot, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I think pretty much everyone would want to bang her, unless you have some weird thing that you don't like Asian girls, or you don't like girls who highlight their hair or dye their hair or something strange. I mean, she was extremely bangable. So, you know, the idea of guys, and it was so weird because some guys like she asked at the beginning, does anyone not want to go on a blind date with me? And like 3 guys left.
Yeah.
I was like, what is wrong with those guys? Did they not screen for heterosexuality or what? Because it was pretty strange that 3 guys left right off the bat. But, you know, I guess maybe that they thought she was like, the only thing I could think was that maybe they thought she's like too high maintenance. And fair enough.
Or maybe they thought she was too good for them. You know, the whole idea of having a league and like, thinking you can't keep up with her.
Or maybe they thought she was like too much of a princess or something.
Right.
But it's interesting because you got to wonder if maybe one of those 3 guys would have matched her criteria, but they just left.
Right. That's why I said it would have been interesting to see the questions shuffled.
But that wasn't even all she asked was, does anybody want to go on is there anybody who doesn't want to go on a date? And those guys left.
Yeah, but my point is that had they stuck around for more of the questions, they may have actually stayed. Right, so it's interesting, like, you know, some guy, and this is what happens with pickup a lot of times with guys, especially with guys who are new. They won't go after girls who they would go after if they were better, at game, because they just sort of are being, you know, it's like learned helplessness, where they're like, there's no way I could do that. But then when you have the tools, then you start to change your thinking, and you're like, I know how to handle a girl who's like that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You know, I even sometimes say to the guys, look, if you see a girl and you're like, what is she doing with that guy? It's like, that guy was probably the best guy that approached her.
Right.
I mean, granted, women do make horrendous choices sometimes. You know, they just choose poorly.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, you know, girls are trying to get the best deal. And if you didn't approach her, then that's probably why she's with that guy you think is a loser, because that was the best she could do.
Yeah.
You know, generally speaking, girls don't go around and go, okay, well, let me find like a thoroughly mediocre guy that's like way worse than what I could get if I want, then way worse than what I could possibly get. You know, they're trying to some extent.
Yeah.
Certainly, if they're Korean or Japanese, they're definitely trying, and mainland girls too. They're definitely trying, and Thai girls too. They're definitely trying. Okay, so. So what else was there? So what else was there? So this is an important point. It's like, you don't know which girls are going to like you, and you shouldn't just go, well, that girl's too hot for me. It's like, that is not, you know, you don't know. Leave it up to the girl to decide. And that was much my experience. The way I got like my first hot girls was just by trying for them, even though I didn't think I was good enough to get them. And, you know, I was kind of right about that. Yeah, and at first I wasn't good enough, and then like I started to be kind of good enough, and then I started to be definitely good enough. So you know, you just get out there and give it a go. You know, maybe you'll find a girl who makes a mistake and chooses you anyway.
Yeah. And this is something that, you know, Mystery used to say all the time, is that, you know, if you want to go
moment of silence.
Yeah, moment of silence. That if you you know, you can go for any girl you want. You just have to understand that girls who, girls at different levels of attractiveness, you just have to use different things for them. You know, the girls who are the 9s and 10s will respond differently than the girls who are, you know, 6s and 7s.
Yeah.
But both groups are attainable.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just about knowing what to do and understanding where those girls are coming from and what their social experience is typically like.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I don't think there was anything else that about the girl video that specifically stuck out.
I think there was another thing. One of the questions she asked was, is there anybody who didn't go to college?
Oh, yeah.
She eliminated anyone who didn't go to college. And so, you know, and it was funny because one of the guys wrote so when they were on the stool, they were typing into their phones, and everyone was getting a message in like a group chat. And she's like, anyone who, you know, didn't go to college, you know, please, you know, exit. And so, you know, it was only one guy, but other guys were like, hey, maybe he's a CEO or something.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. The other thing I thought was interesting was that her criteria for how much she wanted a guy to make is quite low.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's
especially for Korea.
Yeah. Anyway, for anyone. I mean, it's
not for here.
Oh, yeah, for here it would be good. We're in Taiwan at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, for Korea, I was like, wow, that's really low. I was like really shocked by how little she was expecting.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's because she doesn't. Well, she says she works, so she must know how far money goes in Korea. So, that was pretty good. I mean, because generally a lot of Korean guys certainly think that money is really important.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that important in Korea. I don't think it's that important in Japan. I don't think it's that important. Wait. I don't think it's that important in mainland. No. Yeah. It's not that important in mainland either. Or rather, I should say that if you're like middle class by Chinese standards, then it's like good enough. And I would say but the amount she asked for is probably like that's like, she asked for like $1,500. I feel like you could make that working like a part-time job, or not necessarily a part-time job, but like,
an entry-level job for sure.
Right, and not even a office job. You could probably make that working at like a restaurant as like in the kitchen or something like that.
Yeah,
it's like you didn't even need to have like lots of jobs that don't require college degrees. You could probably make that much money.
Yeah, and most of the English teachers in Korea are far
exceeding that for sure. Yeah, so that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and and for all the guys who think that English teaching is like a DLV, you should keep that in mind, that you never know what girls are looking for,
right?
Or where their preferences are, because in most cases, the guys who think that English teaching is a DLV, that's just something in their own head.
Yeah.
It's like something they've constructed. It's not even real.
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting, right? Because in Korea, mostly they teach kids, and usually, they send pictures of them with their kids and stuff, and the girls just think it's really great.
Yeah.
They don't go, oh, he's like a scumbag English teacher. They're like, oh, well, look, the kids seem to be happy with him. I guess he's not actually a scumbag.
Yeah.
There's also, so you didn't have anything else to say about the girls one?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I thought the smoking was interesting, because I think that would be different in different countries, just because Koreans seem to smoke cigarettes a lot more.
A lot more than
Japan.
Oh yeah.
And
it wouldn't have eliminated so many people, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I had quite a few comments about the contrast between the two. Did you have some?
Oh, go. Yeah, you can start.
So the first thing that I thought was really interesting was that in both instances, when people were getting eliminated, I felt, maybe this was just me in both cases, but in both cases I felt bad for the girl.
You mean you felt bad for the girls who were being eliminated from the guy, and the girl who was eliminating the guys?
Yeah. Yeah, which I thought was pretty strange. Like, I pay attention to how I feel about stuff, because, you should study yourself so you know how you are.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty weird that I felt bad for the girl in both scenarios. I felt her bad for her when she was the one who was choosing, and I felt bad for them when they were the ones that were being eliminated. And I was like, wow, that's strange. And it sort of highlighted something about, I guess, our perspective on women, which is sort of that, like, every woman is supposed to be cherished and thought of as being wonderful and this sort of thing. And, it's sort of wrong to, like, judge women and eliminate them and stuff. And, whereas we definitely don't feel that way about men at all. It's like, line them up, bring out the firing squad.
Yeah.
All right, now we can move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
The second thing was, it was interesting that the girl didn't seem to feel bad for eliminating the guys at all.
Yeah, but the guy clearly felt very bad. He mentioned that in his, while he was doing it, he was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and he was like apologizing, while it was happening.
Yeah.
And girls had,
and the girls were reacting. They were like, "I can't believe this.
Yeah.
This is terrible. Can I go?"
Right.
And all this stuff, and they were like really unhappy that they were being subjected to criteria.
Yeah.
Whereas, when it was the girl doing it, it just seemed like she was just like, oh my God, I'm not going to be, she just seemed to be worried she was going to end up alone.
Right.
And, and that was sort of interesting, and it was like kind of amusing, I guess, or it was sort of sad to see that she might be alone. Whereas in the case with the guy, it wasn't really sad that he was going to be alone. It was just sort of sad that, like, girls weren't good enough.
Yeah.
Isn't that the sense that you got too?
Say that again. I'm thinking about it.
So I was saying when it was the girl eliminating the guys.
Rephrase it too.
So it seemed to me that everyone felt it was sad that the girl was potentially going to be alone.
Right.
And it was sad in the male version because it seemed that none of the girls were good enough.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't oh man, this guy's going to end up alone.
Right.
Right? It wasn't like that, but it did feel that way with the girl. Somehow.
Yeah. I guess, I think I agree with what you were saying. I think I felt similarly.
And yeah, so that was pretty interesting. The girls didn't, the guys didn't react negatively to the girl eliminating them.
Yeah, but the girls did.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting because, girls clearly eliminate guys more readily.
That's for sure.
I once had a really good discussion in America. I was waiting for a bus one time, and there was a girl sitting next to me on the bench, and so I started talking to her, and we were talking about dating, and I was explaining how, typically girls don't understand how hard it is to approach girls.
Yeah.
And I was talking to her about how difficult it is to be a guy and have to approach girls and deal with rejection and stuff. And she said, yeah, but guys never have to say no. And I was like, well, that's true. We had a discussion about this, but her point was basically that the girl's job is to just say no. She just consistently says no and occasionally she'll say yes. And that's definitely not the way it is with guys. It's like the reverse with guys. They're always saying yes, and sometimes they'll say no.
Or mostly they're saying please.
Yeah. Mostly they're begging. Yeah, but I think it's funny that girls get upset that guys are eliminating them when, on the other hand, girls are always eliminating guys.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Yeah. Absolutely, and with very little information.
Yeah. Even in many cases, there's several stories that we've heard from our guys in our community and online and in books and movies and whatever, of girls who eliminated guys and then they felt bad about it years and years into the future.
Yeah.
Like that one girl who wrote that blog post about how she's all lonely. And she eliminated the guy. She got married to, right? Or they were gonna get married.
He wanted to marry her,
right?
But she wouldn't stop cheating on him,
right?
Because she was like this young, hot, kind of successful writer, and
right.
I guess we can link that.
Yeah.
In the podcast as well.
But I think that's very interesting about
show notes in the description
about how girls will be in the future. They'll be like, this isn't fair, and if you look at the reality of it, they were just rejecting all the guys who would have been perfect matches.
Right. Yeah. It's very common. I think this happens so frequently. The female client I have, she just did something like this this year where she was she met this Italian guy off of Tinder and she had sex with him on the first date, and that's fine. I know a lot of girls have a hard and fast rule, and they think you definitely shouldn't do that. A lot of guys have a hard and fast rule that if a girl does that, then she's slutty or whatever. But really, neither of those is accurate. Some guys will prefer it if you have sex with them the first time. I certainly prefer it. You're much more likely to get a second date from me and a third date. Well, basically, I'll cut you a lot more slack on other things if you were nice to me. On the other hand, there are guys who will think ill of a girl for having sex with them. But the thing is, for girls, they don't know which one is which. So you should just, girls should just do what they want because you just don't know.
Yeah.
I was actually talking about this with last night with the BG, and we were discussing about how what girls think, well, there's this guy and this guy or this guy that I had sex with on the first date or the second date, and they never called me back. And I was like, they didn't think about all the guys they didn't have sex with who didn't call them back, right? Survivorship bias, right?
Right.
Survivorship bias. Anyway.
Some variation on that.
Bias. Anyway, there's a cognitive bias for that one.
Yeah.
But they don't think about that. They don't think about those guys who maybe would have invited them out again, if they'd had sex with them.
Right.
But anyway, and so after she had sex with this Italian guy, it was one of these, it just happened situations. I was at his house and it was just the two of us, and then it just happened. Situations that girls end up in, I guess, because they're wanting to get swept off their feet, I guess, and so that's why everything just happens. And and then right after sex, she like felt guilty, or she felt bad, or she thought maybe she shouldn't have done it because she's like, oh my god, I had sex on the first date, oh, I shouldn't do that. And even though it was really good, and she like left immediately afterwards. And so, now she's trying to meet this guy, and this guy, like, they've sort of agreed to meet again because, they live quite far apart. But he sort of said, well, if you come and meet me, I can spend like one night with you. And she's very upset about this. And I pointed out to her that maybe he thinks she just wants sex because she had sex with him and left immediately afterwards. Like, girls make these kind of mistakes on a very regular basis where, they do things to like fuck up their relationships with guys early on, and then they get upset that the guy doesn't put in more effort for them. And it's like, we're looking for teamwork.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what else was there? How do we even get on that topic?
We were talking about how girls readily eliminate guys.
Oh, right,
and
yeah,
how
yeah.
it's the opposite, the other way around.
Right, yeah, that's right.
And it's just an interesting sort of dynamic.
My dad always used to say it's our job to ask, it's women's job to say no.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, right? A lot of guys, they don't even ask.
Yep.
Maybe that's probably how I ended up getting, any girls in the beginning when I didn't have any skills. It just, Jim Rohn talks about that. You make up in numbers what you lack in skill.
Yep.
So he was talking about sales and how when he wasn't good, he had to just talk to lots of people to find someone who would say yes. But when he got better, he didn't need to ask as many people.
Yeah.
It's basically what happened with me.
There's a really good one of the old like video programs from Major Mark, and I think it's Major Mark and Ross Jeffries actually. And Mark is talking about how when he was training to be a hypnotist, one of the exercises he had to do was he stood out front of with like one of his one of the other guys he was training with, and they stood outside of a hotel, like a famous hotel in a pretty big city, and they just asked every single girl who came out of the hotel. They asked, hey, I'm in this, I'm staying for, a couple nights, and I was wondering, do you want to sleep with me tonight, or right now, or whatever? And most of the girls said no, but a handful of them said yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he said, and the point he was illustrating is that you don't know. People make all these assumptions, but they don't actually know. Mm-hmm. So you have to go and test these things.
Yeah.
So I always think about that. I think that's a pretty interesting thing.
Mm-hmm. So get out there and ask. Try.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you're gonna be here anyway, so why not, give yourself the opportunity to get something great, something amazing, instead of settling for mediocre or whatever. Okay, so I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to say about those videos?
I don't think so, but I always recommend that channel. To people. That guy is really he's a really good filmmaker, I guess. But one of the things that's really good about him is he's very good at getting Koreans to talk about how they actually feel. Yeah. Because he's sort of getting them to be very honest, even in situations where they shouldn't be honest by social standards.
Right. Yeah, that's very true.
So I think his videos are all very interesting, and many of them are entertaining. But there's if you watch them and you try to learn, you're trying to learn something about Korean culture, they're very, very good. Or just human psychology in general. So highly recommended that channel.
Yeah. I don't think I have anything else to say about that. Yeah. Anyway, but you guys can go and watch it. I highly recommend it. It was really a good. Each of those videos is like 7 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's well worth the 14 minutes. Yeah. To go and check it out.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move along to the next thing. Okay. Let's talk about text messaging.
Sure.
So, in Asia, they love using chat apps. I love using chat apps. Let's be honest here.
I loved using AOL Instant Messenger.
So that's what Vision said, bro. Okay, so what chat app you use depends on what country you're in, because they each have different ones that are the most popular ones. So we'll start from the least popular and work our way up to the most popular. The least popular one is WhatsApp.
Well, the least popular is technically SMS.
Right, well, yeah, okay. Yeah.
With good reason. Eliminated.
The second most popular one is WhatsApp. And WhatsApp is primarily used in Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia.
And I guess Eastern Europe.
Oh, okay.
I'm just mentioning that because we have...
And America, presumably, too.
Yeah.
So, WhatsApp. But, certainly in Asia, it's the least popular. It's the least popular one. And the reason it is popular really almost at all is because it was the one that was available on BlackBerries. And Singapore and Hong Kong have a lot of bankers who got BlackBerries from their company, so they started using WhatsApp. And, so the legacy of WhatsApp still lingers on.
For better or worse.
Yeah. The next most popular one, I guess, would be Kakao Talk, I suppose, if you consider numbers of people using it.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
You're talking about popularity in terms of just people,
Yeah,
volume
it's actually
messages.
really, yeah, we'll talk about it in terms of volume.
Okay, sure. Yeah, then probably Kakao Talk.
Yeah, Kakao
just because
Talk
that's
is probably
only
next.
used in Korea.
Right, only Koreans and people who are talking to Koreans.
Or who love Korean culture, I
So
guess.
for all you Korean girls out there, if you want to know if a guy is a player and he's foreign, if he already has Kakao Talk on his phone, you know he is, because he's probably not using that to talk to his guy friends.
Yeah, well, he might be using it to follow the official accounts of the K-pop stars he likes.
Okay,
So that's very possible.
Oh, I guess that's also possible. So yeah, Kakao Talk, but pretty much it's the only messaging app that Koreans use. The only ones who use anything different are the ones who have some involvement with China.
Or Japan.
I think the ones in Japan use Kakao Talk too, because generally speaking, usually it's Korean girls going there, and so the people they're engaging with will just use Kakao Talk.
I guess that's true. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever met a Korean who I used Line with.
I guess that's true for me too.
Even if they had it.
Yeah. They still preferred to use Kakao Talk, or
Right.
that was their main messaging app.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you meet a Korean girl who is more Korean than she is anything else, meaning she didn't grow up in America, then yeah, always ask for the Kakao Talk.
Absolutely. Then the next one, I guess, actually this is sort of a toss-up, but anyway, the next most popular one is probably Line.
Yeah.
And Line is used in Japan, it's used in Taiwan, and it's used in Thailand.
Yeah.
Thailand.
And apparently it's also used in South America like a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, apparently like a lot of people in Mexico and other Latin American countries all use Line.
All right. Well, that's good. They know what's what.
Yeah.
And I would say that most people enjoy using Line the most. I mean, I think that without a doubt it has the best feature set.
Definitely.
So Line is great. I love it. The stickers are awesome. It's just got a lot of really great features. So, so basically that's one more reason to date Japanese girls.
Yeah.
Because then you can use Line.
Yep. Exactly.
And then we have WeChat. Now, I hesitated actually to put WeChat at the top. I sort of was going to put it after WhatsApp and before Kakao Talk. That was my original plan.
Yeah.
And that's because the only people who use it are people who are in China. And that's largely because in mainland China, Kakao Talk and Line are blocked.
Yeah, you can't use any other messaging app, so you have to use WeChat.
Right. You can use WhatsApp apparently, but even then, I guess sometimes pictures don't go through or something.
Yeah.
So really the only consistently usable messaging app with any popularity is WeChat. So if you're going to be in China or if you're going to communicate with girls who are in China, then you have to get WeChat.
And WeChat is so deeply integrated into Chinese life that you need it anyway.
Yeah, that's right. They have features that have nothing to do with messaging, like payments.
Yeah.
You can pay people
Taxis.
money. Yeah, you can get taxis and all sorts of other services that I don't know about because I don't use it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So there you go. Those are the messaging apps that you need to get if you're going to be in Asia.
Yep.
Now how do we use them? Well, a lot. In all of these countries, girls like to text a lot. Although I will say that probably there's the least amount of texting in Japan, and probably the most in Korea.
Yeah.
With China falling somewhere in between. So in Japan, it's very typical that a girl will take a day to get back to you. A few hours to a day to get back to you, and that's pretty normal. In Taiwan, I'd say generally it's probably a few hours to get back to you.
Unless you know the girl really well, and then it can take days.
I'm making a joke about dating in Taiwan.
In Korea, generally they get back to you within minutes, maybe within an hour, certainly.
Yeah.
And if you don't, and apparently Koreans think it's rude if you read a message and don't reply to it.
Ah, interesting. I didn't even consider that.
So people try to leave. This is one of the reasons why a lot of the guys are talking about not reading their messages.
Because they're very serious about it.
Yeah. So, that's sort of interesting. I haven't really asked Koreans about this.
No, we should next time we go.
Yeah, when we go, we can sort of do this.
Yeah.
We can have it be one of the exercises that we give
Oh, yeah, that
for
would
one
be
of the
fun.
days. You could be like, okay, go and ask girls, this question.
Yeah. And Thai girls message very, very at a very high rate because they aren't doing anything.
Right.
Thai girls have a lot of free time.
Yeah.
So even when they have normal jobs, they usually, Thai people are very relaxed and they like to be relaxed all the time. So even if they're working in an office, they're usually checking their phone all day.
Right.
So high messaging volume there.
Ain't no question. So we tend to message girls quite a lot. If you like a girl, and if you like a girl a lot, you should probably message her every day.
Yeah.
That and that is once again you can break that rule more with the Japanese girls, and you can break it less with Korean girls.
Yeah.
Now, even saying that though, the quality of the messages is more important. Not surprisingly, it's like you can show up every day with $1, or you can show up once a week with $100. I'm sure they'll be happy when you show up once a week with $100 over $1 every day.
Yeah.
Some would argue, however, that the consistency of the $1 is maybe worth more than. Okay. Anyway, in general, messaging really good messages is much better than messaging shitty messages every day. But girls will, especially in Korea, appreciate it if you message them good morning and good night every day, even if they don't reply.
Yeah.
Which is a very funny phenomenon, because in the West we would think, oh, this is annoying, or he's like chasing her, and girls don't want guys who chase them. That's totally not true.
Yeah.
In Asia, girls like guys who chase them.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of their criteria.
This is one of the things that makes text messaging in America very difficult, because you're not allowed to show that you're interested in American text message game. You have to be sort of aloof, and you have to be sort of at a distance in your messaging. So I think text message game gets a lot easier when you're outside of America.
And in America, does that mean that typos are a plus?
I guess they can be considered a plus, maybe. And you're not supposed to use like emoji a lot, or or text.
Stickers.
Well, you don't have stickers, but you're not supposed to use any of that stuff. I remember there was like a video by Simple Pickup, I think, and they had, this is like a long time ago, and they were talking about how a good rule of thumb in America is you can't use emoji more than the girls using emoji.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's, in my experience, that's usually true with how girls respond to you. So, who knows why, but it's just one of those things.
Yeah, I think that, clearly on the reverse side, they, in all of these, except for WhatsApp, all of the other apps have stickers.
Yeah.
And girls really love when you use stickers. I get compliments on my sticker game quite frequently.
Yeah. And I think, stickers make texting a lot more fun.
Certainly makes it at least fun for me.
Yeah, exactly. Whenever I meet girls from Hong Kong, I always kind of dread messaging them on WhatsApp because it's no fun.
Yeah.
And we chat too to a certain extent.
Right. Yeah. Well, let's not even get started on WeChat.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of problems with
Yeah.
that make it messaging no fun on WeChat.
Yeah.
So, so message a lot, message, frequently, try and reply fairly, soon, within, 5 hours is probably good.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it's late at night and the girl could assume that you're sleeping, then it's fine. And primarily, the idea behind messaging is to share with her, what your life is like. You're basically trying to DHV yourself a lot. For those of you who aren't familiar, DHV means display high value, and it's basically showing anything that makes you not so that you're not a loser. So like if you just are sending her like pictures of you playing StarCraft, like that's not good, unless you're playing on like Twitch and you have like thousands of followers.
Yeah.
Then it's probably okay. So you want to send her things that make you look good, and that show her kind of what your life is like. So that's the first thing. The second thing that you want to do is you want to be trying to get her out. You want to be trying to schedule her. You want to be trying to arrange to meet. And that's through a combination of inviting her to things and also finding out things about her and her life so that you can invite her to the kinds of things that she's likely to say yes to, and invite her out when she's likely to say yes. Earlier McConnell mentioned that girls that are 6s and 7s often, are different than girls that are like 8s, 9s, and 10s. One of the differences is that with girls that are 6s, if you're like, hey, well, let's meet up later tonight for dinner, like on Monday, like I did on Monday.
Yeah.
They're like, sure, I'm not doing anything. Maybe she's with her friend or whatever, but her friend is just as happy to go as she is. So, they show up. Whereas, when you're dealing with girls that are like, 8s, 9s, 10s, you might need to ask them, 3, 4, 5 times before they actually agree to go out with you.
Yeah, and it's very normal to take, months
Right.
to get a meet.
And it's not it's not because they don't have time.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
It's not like the girl is.
We've got plenty of screenshots to display that.
Yeah, it's not as if the girl is a fucking brain surgeon with a line out the door of people waiting for her services.
Yeah.
I mean, they may be waiting for her head services. There ain't no hospital involved. So there you go. There you go. Okay, so anything else you want to say about text messaging?
I don't think so.
I think we should mention that we do have a text messaging course.
We do.
And
it is probably our most popular course, actually, after the boot camp.
Yeah, that's probably true. We have a live course that's about 10 hours long where we talk about the principles of text messaging, and we go through lots and lots of examples of how you can maneuver girls into meeting you, because these hot girls, they do not make it easy.
Yep, absolutely. So if you are interested, you can contact us.
Yeah, and we'll put a link to it.
Yeah.
In the show notes as well. Let's see. I don't know if there's anything else. I think we're running up against our usual.
Yep, we're about at an hour now, so
Okay.
we've covered a lot of content.
All right, so go watch that. Go watch those videos and tell me what you think in the comment section.
Yeah, and ask more questions. We love to answer questions, especially if they're wacky. We love wacky questions.
We love wacky questions.
Yeah, even if you don't think they're wacky.
Right.
Roll the dice.
Roll the dice. Okay, and and ask stupid questions. We love stupid questions too. Stupid questions are often the best questions because they tell us exactly what people really don't know.
Yeah.
It's like those are the questions that people want to ask but they don't, and there's a lot of people who want to know.
Yeah.
So please, if you got a stupid question, if you got a wacky question, ask it. We'd love to answer.
Yep.
All right, thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you next time.